Eleanor used to love quiet mornings. She'd sip her tea, watch the sunrise, and feel at peace. But lately, her mind wouldn't let her rest. One thought would pop up, something small, something insignificant. Did I lock the door? What if I forgot to turn off the stove? Before she knew it, that single thought had spiraled into a storm of worry. The more she tried to stop thinking about it, the louder it got. If you've ever felt like your thoughts are spinning out of control, looping in the same cycle, refusing to quiet down, this is for you. Today we're diving into 6 powerful steps seniors must take to stop obsessive thoughts and regain true peace of mind. 1. Recognize that thoughts are just thoughts, not reality. Eleanor had always trusted her mind. She relied on it to remember things, to solve problems, to help her navigate the world. But what she didn't realize was that not everything the mind produces is true. It started with small worries. She'd be in bed, just about to drift off to sleep, when suddenly, a thought popped into her head. Did I lock the front door? A jolt of panic shot through her chest. What if she hadn't? What if someone walked in during the night? She tried to tell herself that of course, she locked it, she always did, but the thought wouldn't let go. Her heart raced, her hands felt clammy, and no matter how much she tried to reason with herself, the anxiety wouldn't settle. So she got up, walked to the door, and checked. Sure enough, it was locked. She sighed in relief and went back to bed, only for the same thought to pop up again minutes later. This became a pattern. She would check the locks, the stove, the lights, the water taps, not because she needed to, but because her mind convinced her that she might have forgotten something. One day, after checking the door for the 3rd time in a single evening, she sat down and asked herself, why do I keep doing this? Why does my brain refuse to believe me? And that's when she had her first real breakthrough. She realized that her mind wasn't always telling the truth. It was simply throwing out thoughts, some useful, some completely unnecessary. She had been treating every thought as fact, but in reality, thoughts are just thoughts. The brain creates them constantly. Some are helpful, and others are just noise. She decided to try something different. The next time a worrying thought appeared, she paused. Instead of acting on it, she asked herself, is this fact, or is this just my brain throwing out a worry? At first, the urge to check was strong, but the more she practiced, the more she realized she didn't have to believe everything her mind told her. The obsessive thoughts lost their grip, and she felt free for the first time in years. The mind is like a radio station. Just because a song is playing doesn't mean you have to listen. You can change the channel, lower the volume, or simply let it play in the background. That's exactly what Eleanor did, and the more she ignored the unnecessary noise, the quieter it became. 2. Break the loop with movement. Eleanor noticed something peculiar. Her obsessive thoughts were at their worst when she was sitting still. If she was alone, watching TV, or lying in bed, her mind had free rein to latch onto a worry and refuse to let go. She would sit there, replaying the same thought over and over, feeling more anxious with every cycle. But then something strange happened. One evening, after an hour of spiraling thoughts, she stood up to get a glass of water, and just like that, the loop broke. Her mind had been so fixated on an anxious thought, but the simple act of walking to the kitchen made it fade into the background. She stopped in her tracks. Could movement be the key? She decided to test it. The next time a repetitive thought started spinning in her head, instead of sitting there and feeding it, she moved. She walked in circles around the living room. She reached her arms up and stretched. She did gentle knee lifts, swayed side to side, even tapped her fingers on the table. And every single time, her brain let go of the obsession faster than it ever had before. That's when she learned the truth about movement. When you engage your body, your brain has to shift focus. The nervous system is forced to redirect attention, making it impossible to stay locked in the same obsessive thought. It's like shaking a snow globe. When a thought becomes overwhelming, movement stirs things up, forcing the brain to reorganize and reset. Now, whenever she feels herself getting stuck in a mental loop, Eleanor moves. She doesn't wait for the anxiety to pass. She interrupts it. She steps outside for a walk. She rolls her shoulders, swings her arms, or even just stands up and paces. Every time it works. If you've ever felt trapped in a cycle of thoughts, unable to escape, don't just sit there. Move, change your posture, step outside, do a few light stretches. Your mind will have no choice but to follow. 3. Creating a worry window to contain your thoughts. One of the hardest things for Eleanor was trying to stop worrying altogether. She thought that if she could just force herself to stop thinking about something, it would go away. But the more she resisted, the stronger the thoughts became. She would wake up in the morning feeling anxious about something small, maybe a bill she needed to pay, an appointment she had scheduled, or whether she had forgotten to lock the door the night before. She would tell herself, just stop thinking about it. But instead of disappearing, the worry dug in deeper. The same thought would pop up again and again throughout the day, while she was making breakfast, while she was watching TV, while she was trying to fall asleep. The more she fought it, the louder it became. That's when she learned about a simple but powerful trick, the worry window. Instead of eliminating her worries, she decided to schedule them. Every morning right after breakfast, she would sit down with a notebook and allow herself exactly 10 minutes to worry as much as she wanted. She could write her worries down, say them out loud, or even imagine worst-case scenarios. She gave her mind permission to do what it wanted, but only during those 10 minutes. At first it felt silly. She would sit there, waiting for the worries to come. Some mornings, she had plenty to write down. Other mornings, she realized that the thoughts that had seemed so overwhelming at 2 a.m. now felt insignificant in the light of day. But then something incredible happened. Her brain started listening. Throughout the rest of the day, whenever an intrusive thought popped up, she would tell herself, "Not now, I'll think about that tomorrow during my worry window." And shockingly, the thought backed off. She wasn't trying to banish her worries anymore. She was containing them. And over time, those obsessive thoughts started fading. If you find yourself stuck in a cycle of overthinking, looping the same worries over and over, try this technique. Instead of fighting your thoughts, give them a home. Pick a time, maybe right after breakfast, or right before bed, and allow yourself 10 minutes to think about anything that's on your mind. 4. Engage in a creative distraction. Eleanor had spent so much time trapped in her own thoughts, trying to quiet the constant loop of worries that ran through her mind. She tried logic, reassurance, even distraction, but nothing seemed to work until she picked up a paintbrush. It happened by accident. One afternoon, feeling restless and tired of battling her thoughts, she sat at the old desk in her study. An unfinished painting sat in front of her, half forgotten, covered in dust. She wasn't planning to work on it, but without thinking, she picked up a brush and made a single stroke of color, then another, and another. Something strange happened. For the first time in days, her thoughts slowed down. Her hands moved instinctively, mixing blues and greens, blending edges, creating shapes. She wasn't thinking about anything else, just the colors, the brush, the movement. And that's when she realized something. Her brain had no space left for worry. Obsessive thoughts thrive in idle time. When the mind has nothing to focus on, it fills the silence with worry, doubts, and endless loops of overthinking. But when the brain is engaged in something absorbing, a creative act, a puzzle, a challenge, it shifts its attention. It stops clinging to fear. Eleanor started intentionally using creativity as a tool. Painting became her escape, but so did knitting, baking, and even doing crossword puzzles. If her mind started spiraling, she would pull out a puzzle book or start a new knitting project. She noticed that whenever she was fully focused on a task, her obsessive thoughts faded into the background. It wasn't about being perfect at the task. It wasn't about creating a masterpiece or making the best loaf of bread. It was about shifting her attention, giving her brain something productive to focus on, rather than letting it spiral into anxiety. The first time she tried this deliberately, it was after a long morning of feeling stuck in her head. The worries were circling, telling her she forgot to turn off the stove, misplaced her keys, said the wrong thing in a conversation. Instead of checking the stove. For the 10th time, she sat down with her knitting and forced herself to focus on the rhythm of the needles, the feel of the yarn. Within minutes, she felt herself settle. The beauty of creative distraction is that it doesn't just pull the mind away from worry, it actively calms the nervous system. Whether it's painting, baking, woodworking, gardening, or even playing an instrument, engaging in creativity helps the brain reset, refocus, and let go of unnecessary stress. Eleanor no longer feels controlled by her thoughts. She knows that when obsessive thinking tries to take hold, she has an escape route. Her hands, her creativity, and her focus are her tools for peace. If you find yourself stuck in a thought loop, unable to break free, try diving into a creative task. Let your hands move, let your mind engage in something new. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be absorbing. You might be surprised at how quickly peace finds you. 5. Strengthen your brain with mindfulness. Eleanor had always dismissed meditation. She imagined people sitting cross-legged in silence for hours, trying to empty their minds completely. An impossible task. Her brain never stopped talking, never stopped worrying, remembering, replaying. How could she just turn it off? But one day, while reading about mindfulness, she learned something surprising. It wasn't about stopping thoughts. It was about noticing them without reacting. That idea intrigued her. What if she didn't have to battle her mind? What if she could simply watch her thoughts float by, like clouds in the sky, without chasing after them? So she decided to try it, just for 30 seconds. She sat down, closed her eyes, and focused on one thing, her breath. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Within seconds, her mind wandered, thinking about an old conversation, a task she had forgotten, whether or not she had paid a bill. But instead of getting frustrated, she remembered the key lesson. Mindfulness isn't about silencing thoughts, it's about noticing them and letting them go. So she did. When a thought popped up, she simply said to herself, "That's just a thought," and gently brought her focus back to her breath. At first it was uncomfortable. She wanted to fix her thoughts, analyze them, make sense of them. But the more she practiced, the more she realized something incredible. Her thoughts weren't controlling her anymore. They still appeared, but they didn't pull her into an anxious loop. Instead of getting lost in them, she could just watch them and move on. It was liberating. Within a few weeks, she noticed something even bigger. Her mind felt clearer. She wasn't caught up in worries all day. When obsessive thoughts tried to take hold, she was able to step back, instead of spiraling. Science backs this up. Mindfulness rewires the brain. It strengthens the ability to let go of obsessive loops, reduce stress, and regain control over anxious thinking. And the best part? It only takes a minute a day. Eleanor didn't become a meditation expert overnight. She simply practiced pausing, noticing, and breathing. And slowly, her mind began to quiet in ways she never thought possible. If your thoughts feel like they run on autopilot, try this. Sit for just 30 seconds. Focus on your breath. When a thought appears, don't fight it, just observe it, and let it pass. Over time, you'll start to feel the difference. A stronger, calmer, and more peaceful mind. 6. Get back to the present moment. One day, Eleanor was sitting outside, lost in her thoughts. She was reliving an argument from years ago, thinking about what she should have said. Then she started worrying about something she had no control over. Before she knew it, she wasn't in the present moment at all. That's when she realized, obsessive thoughts steal time. Every time she was trapped in her head, she was missing out on real life. She wasn't feeling the sun on her skin. She wasn't hearing the birds outside her window. She wasn't tasting the food she had cooked with love. She was somewhere else, lost in memories, fears, and worries. So she tried something different. Whenever she felt her thoughts spinning out of control, she asked herself one simple question: what's happening right now? Not in her mind, not in her worries, but in reality. She focused on the sound of her breath, the feeling of her feet on the ground, the warmth of the tea in her hands. And just like that, the obsessive thought lost its grip. The trick wasn't to fight the thought. It was to step out of it completely by returning to the present moment. She realized she had a choice. She could spend her days replaying regrets, fearing the future, and analyzing every worry. Or she could live. She chose to live. From that moment on, whenever her mind tried to pull her away, she reminded herself, peace isn't in the past or the future, it's in the now. So if your thoughts keep dragging you away, try this. Pause. Look around. Feel your breath. Listen to the sounds around you. Anchor yourself in reality. That's where calm lives. That's where peace begins. Eleanor finally found freedom from obsessive thoughts, not by forcing them away, but by changing how she responded. Now it's your turn. Try one of these steps today. See how your mind reacts. And most importantly, remember that your thoughts do not control you. If this helped you, share it with a friend. Your peace of mind is worth fighting for. Stay present, stay strong, and take back control of your thoughts.